morning. I'd like to call the Thursday, October 10th meeting of the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development to order. I'm Councillor Jeff Rawati from the North Kildonan Ward, and I am the committee's chair. With us this morning, we have Councillor Janice Lukes from the Waverly West Ward and Councillor John Arlico from River Heights, Fort Garry. We also have with us members of the public service, Peter Prinzik, not a councillor, and our CFO, Tracy Graham. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Councillor Lukes, could you move a leave of absence motion for Councillor Schreier? He's ill.
Okay, I'll move a leave of absence motion for Councillor Schreier.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Councillor Arlico, could you move that the minutes of the meeting held on September 16, 2024 be taken as read?
My pleasure. So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we can move straight into delegations. Mr. Clerk, do you have any delegations this morning?
Yes, we do. First up, we have Mr. David Grant to be heard with respect to Report 2, which is the semi-annual update from Economic Development Winnipeg, and he is joining us via Zoom. Good morning, David. If you have up to 10 minutes, thank you.
Good morning, David. You there? Here you come.
Okay, still trying to unmute. Okay.
Very good.
Well, thank you. On agenda item 2, it says that your committee will receive and deliberate on a report on economic development. But this report is missing. Is this a violation of the rules? Can someone explain to the public why the report has been hidden? Well, not presented. I suggest hidden from them. The fact that there is no link in the agenda to that report is just one. Are you okay?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, keep going.
I heard some murmuring. Anyway, can someone explain to the public why this report has been hidden? The fact that there's no link is just one of a growing list of symptoms that City Hall is discouraging any resident who might otherwise offer comments. This year, there has been a plethora of verbal and late arriving reports. One might say that this is a governance issue, but current rules say that it cannot be raised, that this issue cannot be raised there. This issue is relevant here today. Other boards and councils outside of Winnipeg invite comment on any relevant matter at their meetings. In recent years, Winnipeg has forbidden any comment that is not on an element of the current agenda. This is good and businesslike, and that's how we've adapted to operating at City Hall. When a comment opposes a cherished narrative, it is common for a member of council to interrupt the delegation and attempt to silence him. Just last week, City Hall made clear that comment is forbidden on the merits and pitfalls of an agenda topic if the deliberation and vote on it is delayed. For this reason, I focus today on the fact that this report is missing and not on the status of our economic development. Back to my original point, by not including a link to the subject document and thus preventing comment on economic development, input from the public is avoided. Vision is celebrated by mainstream media and some folks at City Hall. This word usually means being the champion of an idea and ignoring or suppressing dissenting thoughts. City Hall is nearly out of money. In my opinion, too much vision and not enough dissent tends to make this worse. If keeping the city solvent is one of the goals of your SPC, then I hope you will champion skepticism from the public, the media, and from members of council. And thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Thank you for your comments. I know the committee did just receive the report yesterday, and I haven't personally had a chance to review it, but I'll tell you what, David. Again, we're going through our organizational meeting of council prior to the next meeting of the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development. If I happen to still be the chair after that, I will personally vote to allow you to refer to this report that's being received today. It will be attached to the minutes. So again, it would be out of normal. You're right. Normally it has to be on the agenda of the meeting in question. Should you wish to speak to it after the presentation is made today and you want to make a comment at the November meeting, if I'm the chair, I'll vote to suspend the rules to it. I can't speak for the other members of the committee. I see Councillor Lukes nodding. So if we're both here, come the November 12th meeting, we would be amenable to doing that.
And let's hope you both are. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And then the other option would be, you still have to go through EBC and council.
This report, I think, is just a report.
It says here.
Committee, it's for information to this committee. I'm not saying make a motion that has the implication, like, spend money to do this. Budget implication, if our recommendation isn't to receive it as information and something else, otherwise it wouldn't move up to EPC or council.
So in this case, because it's not here for people to read it, we could just refer it to EPC as well. So then the report would be attached and they could have their comments there. That's something,
Certainly, the committee could make that recommendation,
it's
however.
not here.
Yeah, okay,
If we want.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, thanks, David. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll move into reports, and the first one is Centerport Canada. I again apologize for last month's meeting. First time we've dealt with an appeal of business tax ever, I think, in the city of Winnipeg, so that went on a little longer than expected. So it's my pleasure to welcome Carly Edmonston and Centerport.
I was given a lesson on the tech. Let's see how I do. Okay, so. Here we go. Okay, thank you very much for having me here today. I know we only have a little bit of time, so my goal today is just to provide an update on Centerport Canada, the 20,000 acre trimodal inland port here in both the city of Winnipeg and the RM of Rosser. Tell you about some of the exciting things coming up, which is going to be a lot of economic development, and what great timing that the report after me is going to be from our partners at Economic Development Winnipeg. So you've got an economic development good news morning ahead of you. I'm going to tell you just quickly about who we are, Centerport Canada Inc., how the inland port came to be where it's at today, and then focus most of our time around Centerport South, which are the city of Winnipeg lands at Centerport. So back in 2009, the Centerport Canada Act was passed, and it did two very important things. The first is it created our organization, Centerport Canada Inc. Our mandate is basically three things. We facilitate the development and operation of the port. We encourage investment into the inland port, and we also promote the port by building a brand and marketing it domestically and internationally. As you said, I'm Carly Edmonston. I'm the president and CEO of that organization, and with me today is my colleague, Amy Goyer, our executive director of strategic initiatives. So a question I get often is, what is an inland port? Essentially, it is prime industrial land that is connected to trade and transportation infrastructure. And you might say, how is that different than an industrial park that happens to have transportation infrastructure as part of its design? Simply put, there's an organization that exists like us, Centerport Canada Inc., to make sure that that project continues to be as competitive and as efficient as possible for companies that are moving goods around the world. So developers fill their projects and move on to their next. No matter what happens with Centerport, Centerport Canada Inc. will be there to make sure that we're as competitive as possible. So why is there an inland port here in Winnipeg and Rosser? It's because of our location. So you can see on this map, Winnipeg is in the dead center of Canada and also very central in North America. We are at the intersection of the four key trade gateways, the Mid-Continent, the Asia-Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Arctic Gateway. And Canada is also Centerport is the first foreign trade zone that was ever established in Canada as well. It's kind of always been Winnipeg's destiny to be this center of trade and transportation at the intersection of two rivers in the middle of Canada, the Chicago of the North. And Centerport is a strategic framework to help fully realize that destiny. So this is Centerport. For anyone online, I'm sorry you can't see my Vanna White pointing, but just to refresh everyone's memory around the boundaries. Boundaries of Centerport are Route 90, perimeter, and then along the south, it goes along Saskatchewan Avenue, dips down Sturgeon Road all the way to Silver, and then back up Route 90. All of this is 20,000 acres. As a reference point, that's just a little bit larger than Manhattan. So this is a very large inland port, one of the largest in North America. The dotted line through the middle is the municipal boundary. So everything north, we call Centerport North. Those are the RM of Rosser lands at Centerport, and everything south, Centerport South, are the city of Winnipeg lands at Centerport. We talk about being trimodal. That's because we're anchored by the Winnipeg James Armstrong Richardson International Airport, a 24/7 international airport, as well as rail. CN and CPKC both have their Class 1 lines running through Centerport, and BNSF can access through federal interswitching rules. And then, pardon me, excellent road infrastructure, including Centerport Canada Way, which sees 5 million vehicles go down it every year. All of this being located just 1 hour north of the Canada-US border crossing at Emerson makes it very attractive for companies that are moving goods. But it's not just about industrial businesses that want to, build things and move them. It's a complete community approach. And the reason for this, we know that companies don't want to locate somewhere an hour from civilization where there's not services, amenities, green spaces for their employees to enjoy. They want to be part of a community. So Centerport Canada Inc. champions a live, work, play, learn approach to development as we work together with our partners. I'm not going to talk through all of this again out of the interest of time, but our journey to date, what's important about this slide is that if you build smart infrastructure, private industry will invest, and that's really what the Centerport story is. So since Centerport Canada Act passed in 2009, that makes us 15 years old this year. It's been about chapter 1, getting all the infrastructure in place so that private industry can invest and move their goods. So Centerport Canada Way, opening up all of those lands for development. We know companies that move their goods by truck, if they can't get 5 minutes to 55 miles per hour, 5 to 55, they say in the States, there's no conversation to be had about building a distribution center or manufacturing facility. So having that expressway through a 20,000 acre central area really opens up all of that land to be used for that type of development. Also in Rosser, there was a secondary plan and zoning bylaw. There's a secondary plan for the city of Winnipeg lands as well. Water and wastewater servicing happened first in Rosser and is now underway in Winnipeg, which I'm excited to tell you about shortly, as well as natural gas and communications infrastructure. So once all of those pieces of the puzzle were there, we could call the land shovel ready, and it was like a light switch. We saw an immense amount of development start. The rail park broke ground, servicing for the city of Winnipeg lands are on the way, and that momentum is significant. So in the last 5 years alone, we've seen over $765 million in construction permits at Centerport. And when you consider that that is just representing the cost of construction, I think it's very safe to say there's been well over $1 billion of private sector investment at Centerport. Think of the cost of buying land, getting land ready for sale, and then the companies that actually build their facilities. There's over 3 million square feet that's either been constructed or soon to be constructed at Centerport for industrial space in 9 new industrial parks, 7 of which sold out. And well over 250 new companies that have moved into the Centerport footprint. It's important for everyone that Centerport succeeds because of what the opportunity is for our economy. So almost 100,000 person years of employment, over $1 billion in new provincial tax revenue, and a boost to our GDP as a province of just shy of 8 billion. Those are from the construction impacts alone. So imagine what also the companies locating and growing at Centerport will generate. Today, of that 20,000 acres, 13,000 are developable. That backs out parts of the airport that can't be developed, roadways, things like that. 2,300 acres are either developed or under development as we speak today. And who's developing and operating at Centerport? This is a quick snapshot of some of the key sectors that you'll see in operation at Centerport. If I had more time, I would tell you some stories about some companies doing some incredible things, shipping their goods all over the world. But in the interest of time, I'm going to move on and talk to you about Centerport South, the city of Winnipeg lands at Centerport. So quick overview. This is 1,800 developable acres. 1,100 acres of that is industrial. So 1,100 acres of that is employment lands. Within that 1,100, this triangle here, the gray triangle, is 260 acres that Winnipeg Airports Authority plans to develop as an air-serviced industrial park. So a portion of that park would allow clients locating there to have direct access to the apron. So why would that matter? If you have time-sensitive goods that need to go by air somewhere quick, that would be an immensely valuable place for you to locate. An example would maybe be pharmaceuticals that are temperature controlled and time-sensitive. Also, new cargo carriers would have excellent access to the airfield if they were to look at that opportunity. The rest of the industrial development is there, but also to note, the green along the south side, just north of Saskatchewan Avenue, is a 500-acre residential project. So that will see 8,000 to 12,000 people moving to the Centerport footprint. This is a beautiful symbiotic situation because you're going to have companies creating jobs and then a place for those employees to live. That is a joint project by Genstar, Qualico, Ladco, and MMI. And thanks to the first phase of water, which is on its way now, we expect to start to see shovels in the ground on some of these projects as early as the end of next year. At full build out, it's expected to generate over 16,000 person years of employment and nearly 80 million annually in tax revenue for Winnipeg. So, how did we get there? I'll tell you a little bit about servicing. This is a photo from the official groundbreaking on phase 1A of water service installation happening. $73 million have been committed towards phase 1A. That's shared between the province and the city. All of the work tenders have been awarded. And last time I drove through Centerport, there are shovels in the ground on that. It is currently being installed as we speak. In addition to that, once those lands are shovel ready, because the servicing will be in place, I would expect that you're going to see a onslaught of planning and development approval needs. And I'd like to applaud the city in their efforts to be proactive about that. They've actually established a Centerport South development team with representatives from 5 different departments led by Matt Dryberg in economic development to ensure that they're ready to expedite and have a bit of a concierge approach to those development approvals to make sure they can move through as expeditiously as possible. So as we move forward, Centerport Canada Inc. looks forward to working with you in partnership. Just a couple of highlights on the ways that we work together. You nominate to our board of directors. The city nominee on the board is Marty Makeup from Anvil Management. In addition, we participate in a number of your different stakeholder initiatives, such as the Centerport South Stakeholder Engagement Project with PP&D. I sit on the Goods Movement Advisory Committee. And as well, several of your department leaders come to our Centerport Government Working Group, which is a quarterly group. We meet, we talk about development happening in Centerport to make sure that everyone understands what all of the different pieces are doing. And we have ongoing engagement, of course, with that Centerport South development team as it gets up and running. My message to all of you, looking ahead, there is nothing but opportunity that exists in Centerport South, both for businesses to grow, new businesses to come to Manitoba and to Winnipeg, and for people to build new homes and have a new neighborhood in Winnipeg. The more collaborative and nimble we can approach that investment attraction, the better. Businesses want certainty when they're building greenfield operations. So the quicker we can get them information that is accurate and specific, the quicker that investment will move. I would also encourage the city of Winnipeg to take a strategic approach to long-term planning for the Centerport South area. Phase 1A is an excellent start, but there's going to be future phases that will be needed before you know it. If we look, in Centerport North, 2,300 acres developed in the last 5 years, your total amount is 1,800 acres. So I think it's going to move very rapidly. And then on that note, future infrastructure and services then are going to be part of ongoing conversations. So what is phase 1B or 2 of water wastewater looking like? There will need to be transit service in that area, and as well highway and transportation infrastructure and how it connects into all these excellent projects. So I'd like to end with a little video. It's the best way I can show you Centerport without driving you around, although I have had the pleasure of taking some of you for a tour in the past. Let me just share my screen. And that's how we wake you up on a Thursday morning. With that, I'll thank you very much for your time and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I'll start maybe just with two quick ones. I guess. What's the big, okay, I'm gonna, today for now, for the sake of this, focus on Centerport South, City of Winnipeg's component, just for self-interested reasons. Wanna get more progress on the tax roll, then, obviously. What is the biggest challenge that you're finding in working with the City of Winnipeg and that we could do to, perhaps expedite and smooth things over? And what's the biggest opportunity? And what I'm gonna throw out there is the potential of adding, transit to our portion. What does that open up?
So the first part of your question, I will say your team's been really collaborative, both on the bureaucracy and the political side, and we thank you for that. I think there's a shared understanding of what the economic opportunity here is, and economic growth pays for social services, and that's an important thing for everyone. I would say there's the best and worst thing about development. As soon as you come over one hurdle, it's now we need to know what's next. And so phase 1A is wonderful. It's going in the ground. That's going to be the catalyst for so much development. We should already be talking about phase 1B to all of the things that the communities are going to need. The worst case scenario for Centerport Canada Inc. would be to say the land is not ready. We've got an opportunity that wants to build, they want to create jobs, they want to invest in Manitoba. And unfortunately, we run out of water in phase 1A and we can't continue to locate businesses there. And the second part of your question
Biggest
was-
opportunity with this Winnipeg portion, and I'm thinking, I hear about, from businesses in the Arm of Springfield, on my border of the North Kildonan ward, it's like, hey, can we get transit? It's like, no, it's part of the Winnipeg advantage. Are there any opportunities to, what value add does the Winnipeg portion have? 24-hour fire protection, transit, or are there other things that, other opportunities in certain businesses that we can attract?
Yes, that will be a significant advantage for the Centerport South City of Winnipeg lands. Obviously, Centerport North being in a rural municipality, the servicing level that you can provide is different. So you'll have transit. Centerport North doesn't have transit. We have seen a number of investment opportunities not go through with a Centerport decision because there was no transit available at the lands they were looking at in Rosser. So I think attracting some large employers in Centerport South because you're going to have those services is a huge opportunity. And you also have different levels, as you noted, of, fire, paramedic, other city services that don't exist in other municipalities. So I think you can attract some really exciting, high caliber global companies, especially having 8,000 to 12,000 employees living right next door.
Okay, questions there? Yep, John?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, I've seen the report recently. Thanks for coming out today. I've seen the report regarding this return of investment for the city of Winnipeg at $80 million. I also see that it's brought out 50 years, which always seems to help these valuations if you extend the years out. Developer friend out in Waverly West had a debate with me before about that. And it did make sense if you had a 100-year window and don't look at reinvestment costs. So can you explain to me, where does the city of Winnipeg get this $80 million from? Is it property taxes? Otherwise, I'm not sure what other, is that solely property taxes? Because that's solely what we get.
So that number is based on, I'm going to defer to Amy, she's our data person. That came from a City of Winnipeg report, correct?
Yes, yeah. That
was Okay, so-
prepared in-house by
From
City
that.
of Winnipeg.
Yeah, so that's, I'm reading that report right now in front of me. So that's, you just say, okay, thanks for the number. You guys said that, we got it, and that's the number you referred to today from the City of Winnipeg report.
Yes, we provided a number of inputs to that report of their economic impact studies that were prepared for West Airport lands and your departments. Collated those.
Guys, go up front. Sorry, I have to go up front so the camera can hear you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's no problem.
Come on up,
Yeah,
babe.
just, I just got a tongue lashing.
Yeah, it's on the microphone.
Yeah, Centerport provided a number of inputs to that report. There's been a number of economic impact studies done for the Centerport South lands. And then the city departments collated those and came up with the return on investment document, which I believe led to the installation of phase 1 infrastructure.
So just to clarify, your understanding is that $80 million is property tax?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's not wages, it's not, construction, GST, PST, so that's good. Okay, thank you very much. So that question on that, I'm not sure where I am after that, it doesn't really matter. It is a huge investment. My second question is regarding the land development process. So the land development process, and you said it, we're dealing with it right now in the city of Winnipeg, and it sounded like you want as of right.
Sorry, can you say
You want,
that
it's
again?
called as of right development.
As of right, okay.
So you're just gonna say, this area, you wanna build whatever, you can do it. Again, providing developers certainty. Is that's kind of the model you want? You don't want them to go through a public hearing. You don't want them to have council say, I don't know about that. But again, that's what's happening right now in the city of Winnipeg. We're going as of right and a lot of ideas to get rid of the public hearing process. Is that something you guys are looking at doing, or is the land still unzoned, as we say?
So there's a secondary plan in place for Centerport South.
Yeah.
My understanding of the initiative around the Centerport South Development Group is just that it's meant to eliminate red tape and silos. So not changing a procedure, just process, just
That's the
expedite.
red tape is called public input. So that's where, get rid of the public hearing. That's generally what the red tape is.
So
that-
I have not been told that
Okay.
any of those types of things are gonna be removed at this time.
I'll follow up with the department on that. Thanks very much. Now, moving off the costing side. Your presentation, nice. Where were you at NASCO?
Oh, we were just in Laredo with NASCO 2 weeks ago.
Not Laredo, where were you at Monterey? I had my first joyous moment there with that group at NASCO in Monterey. And we had some DDW people there. We had some people from World Trade Center were there. We had us there. We had Canada Rail Line, Canadian.
Centerport Canada Rail Park.
Rail Park. And they did a presentation, which was not great. It was actually dour. It was something I wouldn't want as a Winnipegger being projected out to the rest of the world saying this is what we do. And so I have brought it up with the mayor. So we're looking at coordinating next time a lot better. And that's why I felt we really fell apart on this one. But why weren't you at that one? Like that's a big one. That's the AGM. Is there a reason why you couldn't make that one or have a presentation at least?
Yes, resourcing to send, we have 5 staff at Centerport Canada Inc. and at the time had 4 staff and a very modest budget. With that said, we do work closely with partners like EDW to make sure that they have Centerport information and messaging to take forward. Centerport Canada Rail Park is separate from Centerport. It's a developer called Focus Equities. Thank you for that feedback. We can discuss messaging with them as well. We are trying, as we grow and hopefully build additional resources, to be able to participate more fulsomely in that. We've always been a member of NASCO since our inception and a big fan of that group.
So the one thing I did learn from that event at NASCO, which was horrifying. You have the old NASCO picture of where we are, Winnipeg, the big line there. And then when you look at the NASCO today, Alberta and Saskatchewan have much more going on. They had much more, they had the lines. So you had your map there and it all comes up to Winnipeg. Well, their map has very little going to Winnipeg and everything going to Saskatchewan, everything going to Alberta and coming through the states and back around. It felt to me that Winnipeg had lost its edge on the Centerport modeling. We seem to become down the tier level of what we used to be premier on this one. And now, and I understand it's because places like Saskatchewan have and Alberta, they have the raw resources. That's what they're shipping out. Either it's, oil, gas, or peat, whatever it is. Is that a concern for you that's happening? That is CPKC, their lines are actually building new lines to Alberta, they're building new lines to Saskatchewan. I haven't heard anything about coming into Manitoba. Is that a concern for Centerport Canada?
So a few things. We do know that there's more rail activity happening in those other prairie provinces over Manitoba, which is something we should all care about. And I think Centerport provides an opportunity for CPKC is the railway that is the primary service for the Centerport Canada Rail Park. It's the line that runs right along the north side of that project. I know that Focus Equities has worked hand in glove with them as they develop that project moving forward to increase rail activity at the rail park and at Centerport. But with all of that said, I also think it's important to note that Centerport has actually received calls from those jurisdictions and others to say, how have you built this? We want to build something similar. having a strategy around how to harness trade and transportation that's going to attract not just companies to invest, but companies that support each other, supply chains that bring in products like minerals, as you noted, that are needed for common manufacturing processes or distribution needs. You need something like Centerport to be a magnet for that instead of having it sort of happen a little bit here, a little bit there. We're happy that Canada is seeing us as a leader in that type of project. My observation when we were down in Laredo, a small NASCO event looking specifically at cross-border opportunities within North America. NASCO is an organization that champions a think North American approach to supply chain and trade. Was that on every map that showed Canada, and of course, US-Mexico was a big focus for a lot of the folks we talked to there. There were 3 Canadian areas that were highlighted, and I'm pleased. One was Winnipeg, one was Toronto, and one was Calgary. So that tells me that's what they think the 3 shipping hubs in Canada are, and we have the opportunity to emerge out of that. It drives me crazy when we talk about global gateways into out of Canada, that we only talk about our seaports. We talk about Port of Montreal, Port of Vancouver, a Manhattan-sized inland port that's had over 3 million square feet of industrial space built in the last 5 years alone. Should, at the intersection of 4 key trade gateways, we should absolutely be in that list when we talk about gateways in and out of Canada. And now that we have infrastructure in place, your infrastructure is coming into place. We're firing on both sides of the Centerport border. Now is the time for our team to go out, tell that story more, and take our rightful place as the leader of trade and transportation in Canada.
2 more questions. One question, and I think some of my friends at EW, we were joking when we were at NASCO, is we want to be site selectors. That is a job, gold. Gold is a job. You go to all the best events. It sounds like a wonderful idea. How do you attract site selectors to look, not just fly over us? And what kind of work do you do to do that work? Or is that more of EDW work?
We work together. We have a site selector that sits on the Centerport Canada board as well, gives us feedback on what site selectors are most interested in and how we align with that. We obviously work hand in glove with Economic Development Winnipeg. They do a lot of FDI, which we are not in a position to do, and they're dealing with site selectors quite frequently, as well as with the province of Manitoba. What we've learned from site selectors from day one is that you have to have a live, work, play, learn community. That's one of the reasons that we take that approach to development. Simply having industrial land is not enough. You have to show how you're building an ecosystem. So I would argue Centerport Canada is an excellent ecosystem that gives companies additional certainty to how they can make decisions. It's not just, a site and then the developer moves on and no one's concerned about their success. An investment in Centerport is an investment in an inland port project that all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, have supported from day one. And there's a group dedicated to make sure that there's as little barriers as possible for them as they grow and operate. So that's one piece. The second piece, I think, too, is that we are a foreign trade zone. So the foreign trade zone programming in Canada is very different than what it means in the States. But one thing we learned from site selectors is if they can't check that box and say, yes, it's part of a foreign trade zone, we can't even get in the room to have a conversation. So that was a very strategic marketing / infrastructure decision that was made to make sure that we're aligning with expectations of site selectors.
Very good. And the last question. I was on the panel at NASCO, floundering around.
I heard you did well.
Well, yeah, keep Bison Transport, I'll shout out, or 2 other people shout out. So, but one area I thought was quite interesting, I'm not sure, that may be phase 7 for your project, they may not be there yet. It's the opening up of the Hudson Bay port. It is happening. Climate change is going to make I think the north, the land of mineral extraction. It's going to be a little unfortunate for the environment, but it's coming. Have you started looking at that at all? The rail, the connectivity? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that actually did get people excited when we talked about. I got more calls about what's going on in Hudson Bay. I just made that up, really. I just aligned, and it's something I know is coming, but I didn't have a lot of info. And I passed some of that work on to EDW, said I'll go talk to them. But maybe you can explain to me how you guys are looking at the Hudson Bay and the connectivity to the Inland Port.
Oh, thrilled to do that. We're also very excited about Churchill. So we have been working very closely with the Arctic Gateway Group. We're actually in the same bullet in the provincial mandate letters as the departments we report into. So we have been very involved with one another over the last couple of years. Churchill is such an exciting opportunity for Manitoba, but also for Centerport. To your point, with what's going to be happening in mining and minerals in Manitoba, I think it would be a miss on the province's part to just send our raw materials out without adding additional economic activity for Manitoba in that process. So we need to be talking about where are we going to process minerals so that they are going out to market and going out for trade, having already added some economic value while still in our province. I've been to Churchill. What a beautiful place. I grew up in a small town, so I say this with love and respect. There's only 1,200 people there.
Yeah.
They're going to need support from a thriving urban transportation and manufacturing hub in order to make all those different pieces work together. And so we're looking at how Centerport can be that hub for them. How do we enhance our connectivity with the port, both by rail, truck when applicable, and also through strategic supply chain ideas for how to connect that as quickly and as efficiently as possible. What I'm excited about for Churchill, though, when it comes to site selectors and investment attraction is now we can say this Manhattan-sized trade and transportation behemoth is connected to a deep sea port that is 2 days closer to Europe than the Panama Canal. That is a really exciting value proposition. We've talked a lot about, our connectivity within North America. Now we're talking about connectivity of the world in a whole new way. So I'm really excited about Churchill.
That's my question. Thanks very much.
Just a couple sort of more local questions.
I'm ready.
So the airport, that's owned by the airport, that gray area, that triangle?
Yes, so Winnipeg Airports Authority's campus is all federal land.
Right.
So WAA is essentially the owner operator. So they would not be selling land, they'd be offering like 99-year leases.
Right. So I'm going to bring it to trucking and transportation. So I live on the South Perimeter. I've been involved and supported Centerport since 2008 when all of this came to be. Very interesting. So the South Perimeter is old, right? It was designed in late 50s engineering, built in the 60s. It's a death trap, really, with all the trucks and everything that's now coming in from the South 75 and moving around. How are your discussions going with upgrades to, I'm assuming that you're involved with the province in discussions on how to make this South Perimeter safer for the trucks that are coming through?
Yes, so Centerport Canada Act is a shared file between Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, as well as Economic Development, Investment, Trade, and National Resources, edit NR. So we work very closely with both departments. A lot of our conversations with MTI is about clarity of plans around future highway upgrades or extensions to make sure that developers also have an understanding so that everyone's making the best decision for how to build their projects. Some of the top priorities for us would be Chief Peguis Trail. Once it connects to Route 90, the intent has always been for it to come through and connect to Centerport Canada Way, creating that east-west corridor right across the city. And now development is at a place in Centerport North and eventually in Centerport South, where knowing where that road is going to be an important part of decision-making for others who own land and want to develop at Centerport. The same could be said about the North Perimeter. Obviously, there's a study and some upgrades that are underway. Any changes that come as a result of that will also impact development down the road. So we work closely to make sure that information is available as soon as possible and communicated to those who need it.
And then I have two more questions. So we're on roads. So Kenaston, definitely the upgrade and the bridge, right? But how, if you were to talk Kenaston and Chief Peguis, like any priority over the two or?
Equal. I mean, I will say that the widening of Kenaston, I think, is a good thing for Centerport. Our biggest trade partner in Canada and in Manitoba is the United States. The Emerson border crossing is one of the most efficient in Western Canada. Average wait time is 10 minutes or less. Also, Manitoba really should care about being able to get goods to market, especially to the States, because 80% of what we make in Manitoba leaves Manitoba. We depend heavily on trade. So there's no such thing as too much infrastructure and too much planning to facilitate movement of people and goods over the border from a Centerport perspective.
Mm-hmm. So I have Kenaston that goes right through Waverly West, right through town, right through the center of the development, which it's a whole topic in itself, but anyways, I get a lot of heat saying, well, we shouldn't be doing Keniston, we should go around the perimeter instead. And I don't know, you know, any comments that I can rebut to those comments or, you know.
I am not an engineer and I don't know what that design would look like.
But no, I guess the goods that come to Centerport, the theory is they should be going around the perimeter, not through the city.
Guess that depends what they are, where they're coming from and what mode of transportation. We're talking about trucking. Overall, highways built to RTAC standards, the least amount of stopping possible is ideal for trucking. So I can't speak to more than that without more information.
It's a relevant topic right now in the city, so.
So noted.
Okay, so last question. So if someone wants to invest in Centerport, how, you know, puts this buffet of North Rosser portion, South Winnipeg portion, how, I mean, they're gonna look for what, they'll all come with their needs, but how does Centerport support Winnipeg in picking North Rosser or South Winnipeg?
So when an investment attraction opportunity comes in, let's say it's a company from Asia and they want 60 acres and they are going to employ 150 people and here's their water, energy, other needs they may have. We would look at the Centerport footprint overall and go, okay, of the land that is shovel ready, so serviced, ready to go on the market, meets the timelines for when they need to develop, what could work? And then we connect the necessary people in to have those conversations. So whether it's a developer, whether it's a department of a city, hey, we need clarity on exactly what the capacity is in this particular area. Sort of act as the glue to bring everyone together to present what that could look like. Often that is in partnership with the province of Manitoba if the opportunity comes in through Invest in Canada, or with our partners at EDW who obviously bring a lot of investment opportunity to, and I think you can ask Ryan when it's his turn, but one of the things Economic Development Winnipeg has told us is they see us as a very attractive product on Economic Development Winnipeg's shelf. It's a shiny thing that gets people to really think about trade and transportation investment in a really focused way.
Okay, wonderful. Very informative presentation. Appreciate your time and all the great stuff you're doing promoting a very exciting development in Winnipeg. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay,
Do I move it as
Information.
citizens' information?
okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, next up is Centerport, or tourism.
We need that.
I'll get it. right.
Yeah, well, they're kind of trying.
I just got back early this morning, so.
Did you know where you're at?
Yeah.
Let's get our technology teed up here. Just to take a moment while we're waiting, recognizing that we are following and grateful to have an opportunity to follow our partners at Centerport and currently and to build on a couple of the points that Amy said. Centerport is certainly, you know, as Economic Development Winnipeg, we're selling Winnipeg to the world. In the context of investment attraction. And to do that, we need products on the shelf, as Amy alluded to. Products are not just setting aside agricultural land, products are investable, shovel-ready land that has key infrastructure in place, flexible zoning, the types of things that make it attractive and easy for companies to invest. And happy to answer further questions on that following my presentation as well. But Centerport is one of our best and brightest products on the shelf, to Carly's point. And we do tell them that, and we also tell investors that. We are investor-led in our approach. And I think that's something that oftentimes is not widely understood is if you try and force a foreign investor or any investor onto a particular piece of land, typically you'll lose that investment. You really need to listen and hear what the investor's what the investor's priorities are, and ensure that you're meeting that investor predicated on their needs, not where we would like to direct them to be. And so when we approach that, we're selling the city, certainly for investment, we're listening to that investor, understanding what their key criteria are, and ensuring that we're identifying opportunities for that investment from a site or other perspective. Most of the time, often when it's industrial, there's a Centerport opportunity involved. And so that's we work very closely with Carly and the team at Centerport.
Excellent. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. Jeff, thank you for having me. I decided to make the most of the time. So we'll get into a formal presentation here, just making sure my my deck is working. Good morning. I think for those of you that don't know me, my name is Ryan Kuffner, President and CEO of Economic Development Winnipeg, otherwise known as EDW. As agreed with the chair, it's our great pleasure to be here on a regular cadence in spring and fall of each year, reporting on our activities over the previous 2 quarters. Today, I'll speak to some of the highlights from Q1 and Q2 of this calendar year. And when I return in April, I'll report on our outcomes from Q3 and Q4. These updates are intended to provide you with a broader perspective on our operations and demonstrate the strength of our unique model and its impact on Winnipeg's economic and tourism landscape. And just as additional context, when I speak to that unique model, we mentioned it throughout the presentation, it's because Economic Development Winnipeg is special in Canada. We have our tourism agency as well as our economic development agency under one roof, and that we believe positions us very effectively and very competitively relative to other jurisdictions. But it is a unique model amongst Canada's major cities. And lastly, I'll wrap up with some time at the end for some open conversation and questions. So our goal for these presentations, shaped by feedback from councillors, is to provide a clear understanding of EDW's activities and the impact of our work in growing the economy in the city. So in response, we developed these impact reports. You're getting them on a quarterly basis now during Q1 and Q2. They're a new communications tool designed to keep city staff as well as councillors informed on our impacts and the areas where we're moving the needle on the economy. It's a key asset for sharing the measurable results of our efforts, our initiatives, and our outcomes. Currently distributed to corporate partners and government stakeholders, it's reflecting our ongoing commitment to transparency and timely communication and partnership with you. Thank you for your feedback and allowing us the opportunity to build this in response. We've also laid out these presentations that we're making here today to mirror those impact reports. So you'll get a sense of our EDW quarterly highlights, but we'll also be sending links to the impact reports with more detail and outcomes for you to dig into further. To start today, I'll share some of our success stories that demonstrate the value of our unique model. In Q1, we leveraged our #1 place to raise kids ranking that was articulated by the Globe and Mail to launch a new Live in Winnipeg talent attraction campaign. We made this announcement as part of our sponsorship opportunity in the State of the City alongside the mayor. Using our photo and video assets, we showcased our quality of life here in Winnipeg while utilizing our data to identify key markets and talent pools to target. Similarly, we use our data and work with our partners at the Winnipeg Airport Authority, as Carly alluded to support the restoration and announcement of 2 key direct flight routes to Denver and Chicago through United Airlines, reopening 2 key corridors for trade and investment and tourism. Another highlight in Q2 was our annual general meeting where we hosted the mayor and the premier to have a conversation about the economic future of Winnipeg and Manitoba. The diversity of the crowd in that room, with representation from all levels of government, including Indigenous governments, as well as our business community, including economic development and tourism leaders, was a striking moment for us, and we're very proud of how that came together. We also had an engaging meeting with City of Winnipeg staff and councillors in June, where we shared more about EDW's work and our impact, and where we're going to continue engaging with you, as mentioned, our valued shareholders, to deepen your understanding of how we leverage our assets and your investment in EDW to drive economic growth. Our teams are out selling Winnipeg every single day as a destination for tourism, investment, expansion, and talent on both national and international stages. At the end of Q2, our Tourism Winnipeg team had an economic impact of $24.3 million through the attraction of events thus far this year. In Q1, our team, together with Travel Manitoba and Brampton First, co-hosted the Sports Event Congress from March 13th to 15th at the RBC Convention Centre, where we were able to showcase to all of the national sports organizations the advantages of bringing future sporting events to Winnipeg, feeding into our multi-year event strategy. We also hosted the Educational Travel Consortium Conference, ETC, which brought together international tour operators and affinity travel professionals from North America's top universities. ETC had an overall economic impact of 336,000 and brought in 300 delegates. In Q1, we continued our partnership with Inspire, a national Indigenous-led registered charity, for its 2024 to 2028 Inspire National Gatherings. Annually, the Inspire National Gathering brings together 1,200 delegates. This 5-year commitment to Winnipeg doesn't happen by chance. It's our team that is bidding on these opportunities, attracting them to Winnipeg. And in this case, Inspire made a multi-year commitment to hold their gatherings in Winnipeg over 5 years with an estimated combined economic impact to the city of $4 million. This is an example of major citywide events that feed our pipeline for the city and for our hotel room bookings, supporting the accommodation tax and the city for years to come. In Q2, our team and our partners at Travel Manitoba attended Rendezvous Canada 2024, which was held in Edmonton. This Rendezvous Canada is Canada's signature international tourism marketplace, where international travel trade tour operators essentially connect with Canada's tourism industry partners. I'm going to be speaking to this further in a few minutes because we are thrilled to announce that Tourism Winnipeg, in collaboration with Travel Manitoba, has bid for and will host Rendezvous Canada right here in Winnipeg from May 27th to 30th, 2025. Later on, I'll highlight more in this space about how this opportunity in particular will help us and you to showcase Winnipeg to the world, and specifically how Winnipeg City Council can help. Promoting the city and raising awareness of Winnipeg as a destination to visit, invest, work, and live is core to what we do. Here are a couple of examples of successful campaigns that we undertook during this recent period. We launched our first dedicated campaign targeting North Dakota and Minnesota to capitalize on the opportunity to grow U.S. leisure travel visitation to the city. This included a new landing page that raised awareness of Winnipeg and addresses the unique needs of U.S. travelers, including information on how to cross the border and easily get here. As I touched on earlier, our Live in Winnipeg Families campaign launched in spring to raise awareness of Winnipeg as a great place, in fact, the #1 place to live and raise a family, leveraging that Globe and Mail ranking as an endorsement. The campaign drives traffic to a landing page where users can learn more about life in Winnipeg, specifically for families, and what makes us unique and special for those looking to relocate here. You can find more details again on both campaigns in those impact reports. Another way our team is still selling Winnipeg is through our efforts in business retention, expansion, and attraction, what we call BREs. Over this recent period, our team provided 478 services to various businesses across the city, leading to a capital investment of $174 million and the creation of 380 new full-time jobs, or what we call FTEs in Winnipeg. A key measure of success in our business retention and expansion process is what we call our success stories, what we call securing economic outcomes facilitator or EOFs. These successes or EOFs are the ultimate validation of the value that we provide to the services that we offer to businesses. We achieve these only when a client signs a yes letter. I want to take a moment to tell you about that. We do not, as EDW and Yes Winnipeg, which is one of our arms, we do not determine what successes we have in this space. Our clients tell us when we have meaningfully moved the needle to facilitate their investment or their expansion in our jurisdiction, and they sign what's called a yes letter, which is their attestation saying EDW helped us in these ways, and without EDW support, we would not have necessarily invested or been able to invest as easily. So it's our clients that attest to the successes that we claim. They're not self-determined by us in this space. And I want to make that clear because it's very unique and we're very proud of it. And so for every success that we talk about to you in terms of expansion, retention, or investment, it's client certified. These letters, as I mentioned, document key project data and the ways in which our team supported the client through project completion and beyond. In Q1 and Q2, we secured 4 of these economic outcomes facilitated with one of these wins, the expansion of Genvion Corporation, a leader in pharmaceutical development, manufacturing, and delivery. Their expansion included a 200,000 square foot state-of-the-art, what's called GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices facility, creating 300 new jobs and resulting in 150 million of capital investment. Our team supported the project from start to finish, providing market insights, ensuring a smooth expansion and making it easy for them to invest in Winnipeg. Another success story is Eastside Group of Companies, industrial coatings and composites business. They expanded their operations by adding a new facility dedicated to high-quality engineering composite components, creating 50 new jobs and contributing $3.5 million in capital investment. Our team worked alongside Eastside to support their expansion, offering guidance, resources to secure funding, and supporting some of their operational logistics. Our ongoing success in business retention, expansion, and attraction is directly tied to the strength of our investment project pipeline, which includes potential investments for our partners at Centerport as one of our largest industrial parks and assets here. By the end of Q2, we had 512 leads generated, 331 prospects identified, and 100 qualified opportunities in active development. And that's a pipeline. You start at the top with the leads and you work down, qualifying those leads in more serious and countable ways until we steward them into ultimately successes. These numbers demonstrate the scale of opportunities that we're actively pursuing to drive economic growth in Winnipeg. And our ability to achieve these results really stems from our participation in key initiatives, generating leads in different ways, strategic engagements, which allow us to build relationships, foster innovation, promoting Winnipeg as a destination for investment. Some examples include our participation in events like BioCat in France and the Canadian Prairies in Paris, where we showcase Winnipeg's leadership in agricultural innovation, attracting interest from international companies in these spaces, helping to grow the agribusiness sector in that example. We also hosted Level Up, a Manitoba night, at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, connecting with top talent and companies while promoting Manitoba's creative industries. During our foreign direct investment mission to Japan and South Korea, we made significant progress in the life sciences and electric vehicle battery sectors. A key outcome of that mission was with a South Korean electric bus manufacturer that expressed significant interest in collaborating with a leading heavy vehicle manufacturer here in Winnipeg. Our team is now developing a plan to facilitate this partnership, which we hope and expect to lead to economic opportunity. These strategic engagements across diverse sectors not only fuel our pipeline, but also ensure that we remain at the forefront of industry trends and global market opportunities, allowing us to move nimbly and have the right level of conversations with business leaders at home and here in Canada as well as abroad. But for the investments that we're attracting to succeed, it's crucial that we build and maintain a sustainable talent pipeline. Our talent and workforce development efforts are focused on ensuring that Winnipeg's workforce is ready to meet current and future demands. Carly talked a little bit about that live, work, play, the importance of an ecosystem when we're attracting investment and ensuring that the companies that invest here can attract and retain the talent they need and that they have the confidence that they can access that talent before they invest is critically important. And we work closely with our friends at Centerport when there's opportunities for them specifically, but more broadly for Winnipeg in articulating those opportunities to our companies. A key resource in that effort as well is the Work in Manitoba Job Portal. It's a province-owned portal administered by us as UDW. It's grown to include 47,146 job seekers and 1,719 Manitoba employers. One of the key reasons for the growth of the Work in Manitoba Job Portal, and Councillor Lukes wanted to make sure this one was included for you in particular, is the amalgamation of the Newcomer Employment Hub. I know it's important for yourself and for other councillors. That Newcomer Employment Hub was previously managed by the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, and the hub is now merged with the Work in Manitoba portal. So we administer it. This transition has created a unified platform with a broader reach, allowing us to connect even more job seekers, including and particularly newcomers, with Manitoba employers. We also support businesses with immediate, hard-to-fill labor needs In other words, labor needs that they can't meet through the local labor market alone, through initiatives like our recruitment mission to Birmingham, UK and Dublin, Ireland. Our talented workforce development team recently executed on our first ever Tri-City initiative in partnership with Edmonton Global and Calgary Economic Development, our counterparts in those cities. A concrete example of how making our limited resources go further. Along with Steinbach Economic Development and 8 Manitoba companies, we participated in the 2024 Canadian Recruitment and Immigration Fair. These missions are designed to help Manitoba businesses address those labor market challenges that can't be solved domestically and to help grow talent pools here in Winnipeg. To further support businesses and investors, EDW has developed 10 curated labor market information, or what we call LMI dashboards, one for each key sector, including tourism. These dashboards provide critical data on labor availability, helping us identify workforce gaps and areas where we can assist. This data also allows potential investors to assess Winnipeg's talent readiness compared to other regions across Canada. And for example, we'll work closely in partnership with Centerport if there's an opportunity for Centerport that requires more information on talent availability. We partner in that to support that opportunity. This is one of the ways that we help ensure Winnipeg is an attractive destination for investment, supported by availability of talent. Tourism media coverage highlights our city's visitor assets. At the end of Q2, we had 299 media mentions for Winnipeg, some of which appear in different outlets, for a total earned media value of 11.6 million. I'll talk about what I mean by that in a minute. EDW's earned media coverage highlights our organization's activities and features our expertise on economic development initiatives, which included 262 articles valued at $3.4 million in the past 2 quarters alone. The earned media value that I mentioned is a metric in marketing that circulates the value of publicity gained through promotional efforts rather than paid advertising. So it measures the worth of media exposure that we've obtained through channels like social media, press coverage, etc., estimating the equivalent cost of achieving the same exposure through paid ads. Again, it's another example of how we can do more with less by being creative about how we secure coverage for Winnipeg. On this slide, we have 2 examples of earned media. Behind one. Yes? One back, sorry, thank you. On this slide, we have 2 examples, of earned media coverage: Igniting the Spirit in Winnipeg in Canadian World Traveller magazine, written by journalists who came to visit Winnipeg in May to experience Manitowabi, along with our other Indigenous tourism assets. The other piece is by Gabby P. Shea in the Winnipeg Free Press, covering EDW's annual investor breakfast event. A key component of our efforts is keeping our community informed and engaged. We achieve this through our local work, which not only supports but also amplifies our broader initiatives. And these ongoing engagements help ensure that our stakeholders remain connected and involved to our collective success, because ultimately it takes a village. An example of this is our Tourism Awards, which we co-hosted with Travel Manitoba with over 400 guests in attendance, celebrating the achievements of 17 award winners and recognizing success within the local tourism community. The mayor was present at that event. Similarly, our 2024 Investor Breakfast was a partner event that brought together 295 attendees from both the tourism and business communities. We shared updates on the Real Impact Campaign 2025, celebrated key milestones from 2024 and 2023, and discussed our plans for this coming year. We concluded the event with an insightful panel featuring prominent business leaders discussing the economic impact of Winnipeg headquartered companies in our city, which is a key pillar of our economic value and how our city will remain economically competitive for years to come. This is another example of how we keep the broader business community informed, is through our participation at events like the Manitoba Association for Business Economics, or MAE, and their Outlook Conference. During this year's conference, our senior economist took a deeper dive into Winnipeg and Manitoba's economic outlook. presenting EDW's insights on how easing inflation and potential interest rates cuts in 2024 could impact local businesses. Lastly, each time I present here, I'm going to try to shine a spotlight on two areas of EDW activity that specifically grow the city's economy, to give you a deeper sense of how that area drives economic growth. Today, I'm going to talk about travel trade and foreign direct investment. So what is travel trade? It's part of how we drive leisure visitation to the city as part of our broader tourism strategy. Travel trade increases the city's promotion through amplifying effects of tour operators and travel agents nationally and globally that sell Winnipeg as a destination for groups or individual travelers. Travel trade is important because it allows us to amplify our promotion of the city to engage with overseas markets and student groups in particular to sell Winnipeg as a travel destination. It's a bit of a long game for our sales team, to be honest, to get these bookings, as it takes time to develop these key relationships with agents and operators. But we want to make sure Winnipeg is top of mind when these travel sellers are making those recommendations and bookings to their clients. For example, some of the tour groups booking hotels in Winnipeg this year and next took years for our business development manager, Sarah Robinson, to curate. When global tour operators want to understand the tourism products that Canada offers, they attend Canada's annual showcase. Again, I mentioned it earlier, Rendezvous Canada. Think of it as a place where all the global tour operators come when they want to understand what are the products in the tourism space that Canada is selling, so that they can take that information back to Germany or Turkey or wherever they're from and sell Canada's products to their clients. As mentioned earlier, for the first time in over a decade, Winnipeg is going to be hosting Rendezvous Canada, this key marketplace, from May 27th to 30th, 2025. It's an opportunity to showcase Winnipeg to the world in the context of this premier travel trade business event. We expect more than 1,500 delegates from 22 countries converging on Winnipeg, including more than 300 tour operators, arriving as early as May 20th because they often participate in pre-event familiarization tours. They might go up to Churchill, they might do other things in the city, APC, CMHR, other things, presenting a significant opportunity to promote our city and certainly our country on an international stage and drive future tourism visitation. To ensure our city looks and feels its best, we need City Council's help. This is one of our asks today, to create a great first impression to these influential tourism businesses from around the globe. Specifically, we're asking the City of Winnipeg and councillors' support in scheduling an early spring cleanup and conducting a thorough downtown audit focusing on safety, cleanliness, and beautification. We'd also like to work with you to manage any construction or road closures that could affect key transportation routes.
That's okay. It's not much of it happening, so that's okay.
Seeing some reactions here during the event.
So would we.
And beyond that, as we look forward to your engagement during this event as councillors and certainly the mayor in welcoming the world to our city. The other spotlight that I wanted to talk about is how we grow the economy through foreign direct investment, and Carly and Amy talked a bit about this as well. Just like travel trade, foreign direct investment is about building long-term relationships to attract investment to the city and the province. Recently, we had a significant opportunity to attract a major international company in a rapidly growing industry. We competed aggressively for this opportunity, and the client narrowed their investment down to 2 cities, including Winnipeg. The project could have brought substantial investments and jobs to the city. And while the company ultimately chose to invest elsewhere, they provided us very clear and helpful feedback on where Winnipeg has opportunity to do better in future. And that's not just Winnipeg as a city, it's EDW, it's the province of Manitoba, it's Centerport, it's all of the partners that make up our ability to do this work. They wanted our city and our province to be more nimble. in finding the right site, aligning the appropriate incentives. There were challenges related to maintaining and supporting the confidential nature of the project. And these factors proved to be a little bit more difficult than expected, showing us that there's room for improvement in how we manage land availability, protect confidentiality, and offer some of the incentives that help lock down these types of investments. It was very helpful. It was instructive, in fact. And ultimately what this comes down to is some of the elements that Carly was alluding to, which is the investment readiness of Winnipeg. And as a broader theme, that's something that's critically important. Investment readiness, and encompasses a broad range of activities, some of which Carly touched on, and then we look forward to spending more time with council as well as city executives in the future. Because ultimately ensuring that we can respond to these needs more efficiently will be crucial for our collective ability to secure future large-scale investments like this one. We also, we mobilized very quickly for this opportunity, as you know, coordinating efforts across our community and government partners to meet tight timelines. This very demanding experience has helped us identify areas for stronger collaboration and quicker responses, being proactive in preparing those, ensuring that we're all ready to act when the next opportunity arises. Although we didn't secure this particular investment, we're applying these lessons to current and future opportunities right now. And we're pursuing other exciting projects in a much better position now because of the insights that we've gained. So again, you asked us, and here's where you can help. First, an area where we can improve as a city, and Carly touched on it, is simplifying and enhancing processes for potential investors. This involves making city processes more flexible and creative to meet the diverse needs of investors, and doing so proactively, ensuring a quick and effective response to their inquiries, and working together to prepare as much industrial land and space as possible to allow that product to be ready, be market ready, ultimately enhancing Winnipeg's investment readiness. Another area where the City Council can play a meaningful role is establishing an in-camera mechanism for sensitive discussions related to potential investment opportunities in Winnipeg. As most of the opportunities that we work on are highly confidential and protected under what are called non-disclosure agreements or NDAs, EDW is significantly constrained in our ability to share and advance projects through engagement with City Council, as there's no confidential environment to have these conversations. And if we were to have them in a public environment, it ostensibly would bring an end to that opportunity for the city. So it's a bit of a challenge. Investment projects often take place in a highly competitive environment. And when required, an in-camera mechanism that would be used judiciously for City Council would allow EDW to brief council and inform your decision-making more effectively around major investments in the city. The bottom line is, for Winnipeg to compete on a global scale, we need to continue refining our approach and strengthening our collaboration between the city, the province, and key stakeholders, including Centerport. By doing so, we'll be better prepared to capitalize on the next big opportunity that comes our way. So that's it for today's update.
Okay.
As a recap, quickly, we're looking for the city's support in 3 areas. Number 1, in helping Winnipeg look its best for Rendezvous Canada by scheduling an early spring cleanup and conducting a thorough downtown audit focused on safety, cleanliness, and beautification. Number 2, in the investment space, we're asking the City of Winnipeg to work with us and other partners like Centerport in simplifying and enhancing processes for potential investors, creating shovel-ready land and facilitating investment in our jurisdiction. And number 3, consider establishing a judiciously employed in-camera mechanism to allow us to have more sensitive conversations around investment opportunities and keep council better apprised. I'm committed to making these presentations as useful as possible to you, and invite you to provide any feedback on this format today. So we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ryan. Questions? Absolutely.
Okay, so I was just looking for the name of it, but the Chamber of Commerce came out with a recent report talking about interprovincial migration. That we've got one of the largest interprovincial migrations of people moving basically out. So this report just came out, everyone's gonna be working on trying to figure out how to keep people here. Do you have any comments or anything to, you're concerned, or we're all concerned about having people here to fill these positions if we land big jobs, big companies. So how's economic development in Winnipeg? I guess they're working with the chamber. I'm not sure who's leading it, but the chamber took the project or they took the report. So any insight on that?
Sure, absolutely, and thanks for the question. So we work with various different partners in this space, including the Chamber. We were actually part of that study. We had our Director of Talent and Workforce Development on the steering committee that helped partner on that. So we were involved from the outset. You saw, I talked about talent attraction and retention, because attraction alone is not enough. How do we retain them? We do a good job attracting talent to this jurisdiction, but we need to keep them here. And so there are different mechanisms that we're working with various partners, including the province of Manitoba, to help advance that opportunity to retain. A couple examples that I'll give you right now. For example, we're working with the Business Council of Manitoba in the space of work integrated learning. So work integrated learning is essentially the matching of students, some of them homegrown, some of them international, that come in to study. The greatest predictor of a student, a graduate staying in Winnipeg and Manitoba, is whether or not they have a job offer upon graduation. So our ability to facilitate the connection between Manitoba employers and students is critical in that retention question. That Work in Manitoba portal that I spoke to in today's presentation is going to be used as a platform for a lot of the work integrated learning work that the Business Council is doing with their employers. We're broadening it to the corporate partners within Yes Winnipeg and our portfolio. And we're also working with the province of Manitoba to look at other areas where the Work in Manitoba portal can be the platform to help connect those job seekers with those employers, recognizing we've got 1,700 Manitoba employers, the majority of which, well, 67% of which within the city of Winnipeg, that are looking to connect over that platform. So those are a couple examples of what we're doing in that space. Additionally, we're advocating on the policy side. For example, under previous provincial governments, I think it ended under the Pallister government, there was a tax incentive essentially, where Manitoba graduates of Manitoba universities, if they were to remain employed and stay in the province over a period of years, they would have an opportunity through their tax returns to receive a rebate on their tuition. You're nodding your head. I assume some of you are familiar with this.
Very supportive, and I get a lot of feedback from that, from like the community I work with, that some of them are here because of that.
Great.
That stay, they like it.
Great. We hear the same. That's another area where, as you're hearing these things as counselors, please do feed them to us. Reach out to me personally or otherwise in these sessions. But those are key. Those policy mechanisms can be key and foundational to. They're not going to keep people here long term, but they get that initial retention that allows people to put down deeper roots, and over time we're retaining them. So there are different mechanisms, and those are one of those opportunities.
Okay, so on that, I'll just say this, just because I'm living this experience now, is I really strongly believe, other than like a one-day job fair at a high school, I think that, I guess it's the province that needs to more robust approach, because I have 3 22-year-olds that graduated whenever they graduated. Really, I thought it was really a weak. There's so many opportunities here in Manitoba, but these kids they're not really one-day job fair. Maybe they go, maybe they don't, right? Like they're just like probably don't. But there's got to be better ways to engage all these kids that are graduating, right? So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's the work integrated learning piece. So that as they're studying, whether it's in high school or the series of university, that they're getting an opportunity. If they're studying at Red River College in creative and interactive digital media, they're actually going to an Ubisoft or a Complex Games,
but even like
experiencing that
9, 10, and 11 grades.
Earlier,
right? Like
yes.
Much earlier. Okay, so then I have another question here. So this is maybe, I mean, you're economic development in Winnipeg, it's big picture, but the city supports you. We have Matt Dryberg and I don't know, 1 or 2 people in his camp. So again, we're growing through immigration. That's how Winnipeg's growing. I have many new Canadians that come here. They want to set up a business. They're very entrepreneurial, right? A small business is like is like the core of expanding and growing, right? So, and I recently had to do a presentation on what does the city of Winnipeg do for small business, right? Well, that was really challenging, and I'm talking to Dryburgh about that. And I know it's small peanuts compared to some of the stuff that you're working on, but it's still really important. And I look at Calgary's, just even their website, Edmonton, what cities are doing. I mean, I'm continuing on the path with Dryburgh to try and get our website and better portray. But boy, I was sure inspired by other cities on what they're doing. And maybe it's just a spin on the media aspect or the writing aspect of what we do. But I don't know if you've got any comment on small businesses, because I have so many people that come here, they buy franchises, they set up, they go through living hell, they're calling me all the time on this, that, and whatever. And of course, I'm helping them, but it's incredible how many, well, all we have to do is look around, how many new Canadians own small businesses, right?
Right.
So, any comment on that?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, not just here in Winnipeg, but nationally and in North America. But you're also right that we have a certain scope as EDW, and we do focus in certain areas. So when we work with clients, we only have so much capacity. We're looking for those big impacts. So it's a minimum of 10 jobs created. Ideally, 25 or more jobs is kind of our qualification criteria. That being said, we do that because we're able to, because there are other partners that are doing some really great work in this space. So there is
Just the chamber.
a Manitoba Business Service Center that's funded by the provincial government and the federal government, I believe. That's administered by World Trade Center Winnipeg. That is targeted, that service center is for the man or woman or a couple people I want to start a business, or I'm a newcomer, I want to start a business, or I've acquired this business and I don't know how to just get going. There's a full service offering that will support them through the Manitoba Business Service Center that is designed for that space.
Okay.
World Trade Center has a contract for its administration, and so it's housed under them. But I don't know if the city of Winnipeg funds that or not, but that's certainly an asset that exists.
Okay.
North Forge is another very valuable asset, which is focused on certain types of entrepreneurs in the technology space. Manitoba Technology Accelerator is a third, which is led now by Paul Card, that also focuses on startups in certain space. And then one organization that's doing some really incredible work right now, in my view, and I love them all equally, of course, but Futurepreneur is another organization that's doing some really great things, particularly around inclusive economic development, which is a priority for us as well, related to young Indigenous entrepreneurs. And Futurepreneur is another organization that offers some really great services. So, we do some things obviously as EDW in this space, but we're more focused at the upper echelon of that continuum. I think if the city, to your question, wanted to do a little bit more it's about making it easy for these companies, right, or these entrepreneurs. Is perhaps the city, because people will logically go to your site. Maybe there's an opportunity to coalesce some of these assets in a very clear and easy way. Who does a business in your ward go to for what, right? And really be really clear about what the different partners do. We'd be happy to work with Matt in giving him some direction where that could be and supporting him however we can.
Okay. Great. Okay. Okay, well, we'll work on this cleaning up for spring, okay? It's always good to have people come in to your house and to your city. Make it look pretty.
It's like my house, you gotta start early.
I have a meeting with the downtown biz very shortly about exactly these topics, so. Okay.
One thing I've noticed when traveling, to other cities around the world even, if you want to go explore and, you don't know where to start, sometimes it's nice to go on a tour. TripAdvisor, Viator, and the resells through, Airbnb experiences and Marriott. There's very little in Winnipeg. Is there anything that the tourism arm in particular could do in terms of, encouraging tour providers to do, walking tours and food tours and visit, John Kieran's house to see where Neil Young used to live. I mean, all
Bronze is going in front of his lawn, so.
Again, I've traveled to different places and taken tours, and none of that really, there's very, very little on Winnipeg on there.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Jeff. In short, yes, there's opportunity. There's always opportunity to do more. One of the things that we're currently doing, and maybe it's a bit of a deep dive for our next visit, is we helped we led on the creation of what's called the Winnipeg Attractions Pass, which is essentially looking at some of our key tourism assets in the city and making it easy for tourists that are coming in, certainly to purchase this pass. You can do it on one of a variety of different days, and then be able to visit the different attractions in the city in a seamless way without having to do things on a one-off each time in terms of purchasing those tickets and getting access.
I mean, they obviously take a commission to do the transaction, but perhaps even having that type of pass available through one of those services would be a positive thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And on our Tourism Winnipeg site, we've got recommended tours in the city, whether you're here for one day, a weekend, 5 days, no matter what the time that you have here, we have recommended tours that folks can do based on our assets. And maybe more generally, that should be a focus if you're open to it. That could be one of our spotlights for the next time I come to present.
Does the province provincial publicly report how their airline and route attraction fund is being used, and have they, are they reporting that they have had to pay or have not paid on any of the routes that have been launched so far, whether it was WestJet with LA and Atlanta and United with Denver and Chicago?
So I'm not sure exactly what the province has chosen to communicate in terms of some of the details of what they would or wouldn't have funded. Every time there are new routes that are established, there's been a press conference held, usually that we've been at, with typically the mayor and the premier as well, where they speak to that. I'm not aware of a central location where some of that information is, but certainly the intent of that initiative was to de-risk the creation of new routes, for example, Winnipeg, Los Angeles, in areas where there's particular opportunity. So Winnipeg, LA was a route that is foundational to our ability to grow the film and creative industries economy here. You can see our film industry thriving right now. It's growing significantly year over year. A big part of that over the past 12 months has been the establishment of that Winnipeg, LA flight. And so it's the attracting that flight here, working with WestJet and our partners in the province of Manitoba, was intended to establish the flight, but ultimately it's up to the community and the film industry and other industries that would value that flight, Winnipeg, Atlanta, to ensure that those seats are filled for it to be sustainable over the long term. And that's our goal. But when carriers are looking at whether or not to establish flight connectivity in a new market, there's a front end risk. The intent was to de-risk the front end, expecting that those incentives can be withdrawn, and that's how it's designed, so that over time those routes are fully sustainable.
Thank you. I mean, it's not uncommon in other markets, I know Edmonton, places like Fargo, they sometimes do an upfront, even, here's cash up front to promote it. And then, you guarantee they're operated for a certain amount of time, or guarantee the, performance of that route for a certain amount of time. And, you see years later, they're still flying from Fargo to Dallas. I know it was incentivized originally, not on an ongoing basis. Edmonton's been doing it. So I don't have an issue with it. I'm just curious to know if, it's been reported, like those other, examples, they've in some cases publicly identified the public money going in, but I'm not. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think in all respects, we chose not to. Some jurisdictions with respect to Edmonton, our colleagues at Edmonton, some jurisdictions do go out with kind of purchase routes, but those routes are not always sustainable.
Right.
The intent is that they're purchased, and as soon as that offset or that funding from the government expires, usually that route disappears. That's not been the approach that we have taken as a jurisdiction, because we're resource constrained. Much like on tours in the city, there's been talk of having a trolley bus that would go through our different assets to facilitate tours. It's resource constrained.
I mean, you risk, if you put that passenger load straight to LA, maybe Denver isn't as lucrative as it used to be. I mean,
there's cannibalization. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank you. I've been around for a few years, not as much as Jeff, but
2 years longer.
I know, but it's always 2 years longer no matter what. But again, I just, we've been working supposedly together, EDW and Winnipeg, for quite a long time. And I really just want to thank you for listening to us, and listening, and for Councillor Bowati as well for spearheading this forward. I always thought there was a lack of link between us. We gave you the money, you did your thing, and we had no idea what you're doing, you sent some analytics, and you sent us these wild reports. We're like, I can't. But again, this was very well done. It gave us the highlights, what we need to know, so we can support you, and then we can also support Winnipeg going forward. So I look forward to more of these, and I just want to say I see, and today is a great expression of the fact that the collaboration between our two groups is only going to grow better. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor. That means a lot to us, and we have listened, and this model today is what we'll be looking to replicate in future with your continued feedback. But thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, thank you very much. Somebody care to move this report as information? Well, I think it was, sure. I think you did the other one, so we'll let Councillor Owen do this. All in favor?
Thanks, Ryan.
Opposed, carried. I need just a 90-second pause before we go on to the next report, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll go smoke. Don't smoke. Just to piss everybody off.
Really quick. I tried to move on. Thank you. Meeting's back in session. We'll continue along with our agenda. On to report number 3. North Garage Replacement Quarterly Project Status Report number 5.
Okay, and speaking to the North Garage Replacement Report is the Director of Transit, Greg Iwanku, Jesse Crowder, Manager Asset Management for the department, Lori Fisher, Manager of Finance, and Don Glowowski, Manager of Plant and Equipment.
Jesse's going to take it from here.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Lots of sides are on the table.
Yeah.
Quarterly project status report number 5 for North Garage Replacement Project for the period ended June 30th, 2024. At this point in time, the project is on schedule and on budget. So they're about 32% of schedule complete and about 5% of the adopted budget spent. The city has possession of the required private properties. The land assembly process has begun and expropriation negotiations are ongoing. At the time of the report, we were at a 66% completion on the design. We progressed past that. We had received a class 3 estimate from the design consultant at that time and gone forward last month with a report to Public Works that we're all familiar with. So I'm not going to rehash that. The timing of this report and that report being less than a month apart, there's a lot of overlap in this report with that one. So we won't discuss that now that we have direction. So
Okay.
we will be coming forward our next update in January with a revised plan for the facility.
Okay, Councillor Olico.
I do have other items.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Again, we haven't, I know we received this information today, so I'm just thinking of the finance part, not so much as the operational part. So, but go ahead.
Yes, otherwise, we have been working on the design. As I mentioned, we've submitted an application to Manitoba Hydro for power to be supplied to the site, and they're now working on a feasibility study for that. We did issue a request for qualifications to create a short list of general contractors that are qualified to build the facility, and we're evaluating those proposals right now. And we have issued a tender for goods that have expected long lead times, such as electrical transformers. On the risk side, we have one new risk, which was codes from the Canadian Standards Association around the storage of hydrogen fuel cell buses. As we discussed at last month's meeting, it's an emerging technology and codes generally lag behind technology at this point. So we are working to have those features incorporated into design to the extent that we can. We have 3 ongoing risks. Obviously, the remediation of impacted soil on the site, the building codes around sustainability and carbon zero initiatives, and then the delay in the project approval, which we discussed around the budget. On the finances, if I could go to Appendix B quickly for a second, we have had actual cost to June 30th of $10.8 million. 2.67 million in engineering and design costs, 7.7 in land acquisition, and approximately 443,000 in financing and overhead for that 5% of the adopted budget spend. At that point in time, we had submitted 4 financial claims to the province for payment totaling $949,000 for the Manitoba and Canada portion, and we received $243,000 in payment to date. Property acquisition, as I mentioned, we are have ongoing negotiations on expropriation, land assembly is nearing completion. And for stakeholders, we did launch a project website in May with project info, comment form, ways to stay informed about the project. We hosted a resident and business owner meeting as well as a public information session near the end of May. where the public can learn about the project and ask questions to the project team. And we will be doing a second information session when we achieve 100% design, timing and format is to be determined on that. We've installed project signage on the property of the new facility. And we have sent letters to the 7 Indigenous governing bodies informing them about the project and offering them an invitation to meet. And including an assessment report from the Historic Resources Branch from the province of Manitoba that indicated there were no impacts related to the property we had for the project. And subsequent events, we had that report that went forward last month, so. All right, any questions?
All right. Any questions?
First question is clarification. How much land has been, it's a twofold question. One is how much land has been expropriated? And B, has that cost figure been calculated into these numbers yet?
There's 28 acre parcel for the project. 14 of it was already held by the city. 4 we purchased directly from Imperial Oil and 10 we expropriated. So
we expropriated 10 acres.
Correct. And that cost is reflected in the report because to initiate that process and clear the title, we have to pay the market value of the property, pay off the mortgage essentially to take possession of it. So it is reflected in the budget and our estimate of what we think the value of the project or property would be. But we're obviously going through that negotiation. And that could take some time.
Parker Lands is still out there somewhere. Okay, so you put a number in there for what the market value you believe it is and how much we should be obligated. And again, it's a difficult game to play. You don't want to overvaluate. And so I know that. So, but if it doesn't go our way in the expropriations, which who knows, is that where would that fall back into contingency or where is that? That's the contingency problem?
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. My bigger question is now that we've had this whack at 66%, it's a big whack. And now we still have, means 66%, we still have 34% to go. Should we not pause and get that other 34%? So we know if that 34% is anywhere near with the 66% and adds another $50-60 million to this project, isn't that a fair bit of a risk for the city of Winnipeg to start investing in the 66 or committing to 66 when we find out that 34 is another 50 million, 100 million? I have no idea because you have some pretty expensive stuff coming up with the transformers and stuff like that. Right. So why should I, as a councillor, say, okay, you've already shown us in the last one, we're way off our numbers. So go ahead still, and I'll wait and see what the other 34% says, and hopefully it won't be so bad. That's a hard proposition for me. Why are we doing the whole 100% before we commit all the money and our debt will be debt somewhere, which is almost zero, how much we have available to our ceiling. So that's where I'm having a little hard time figuring out why would I say in the finance committee, that's a great idea. I know you did this, the option, whatever they picked up, the public works. But on the finance side, we've already proven that we're way over on 66. Should we not wait till we get the other 34%? So we actually know how much we're over before we start committing to other projects and contractors and all the other goodies? What's your comment on that?
A couple of things, I guess the first being, you mentioned we do have direction to adhere to the adopted $200 million budget. So that is where I would hesitate to use the word pause, but that is where I say we're coming back with a revised plan. The intent of what was being designed and is being designed is still what we desire and still will be needed in the future. So to us, it's an investment in what the design of the facility should be. It's much easier to go that route and then understand what you need to remove or defer than it is to go the opposite. So it's not lost work to design the full facility and then say, okay, well, we're going to defer this chunk and this chunk, go to $200 million and do those later. So I think that's where we're kind of saying we had to make that decision, identified at 66. The timing of the tender was to be this fall to meet our ICIP deadlines. We needed to go forward with a report for a request. And that's where all that timing comes together. But I think it's the investment of doing that work is still the desired plan for the facility and transit as a whole.
So again, thank you for that first thing you said, which was key. The $200 million is still $200 million.
Correct.
So if we have that 34% jumps up another whack, we're gonna pretty well have a parking lot. We're gonna have to scale back the project so far. Cause I guess that'll be the only option we have unless you actually come back and say, council, we need more money. We need to take your 200 million, but you haven't done that so far. Well, you may have, but we said no, probably. But again, that would be an option there. So my question follows up as we get there, and I know we hate hypotheticals, but it's risk. So let's say we get to the 100%, we go, holy mackerel, man, this is not even worth doing anymore, because the project's being scaled back so far. And so, okay, we're abandoning this project. That's it, we're done. Do we have any information on, and we may not, on the risk that would entail, like going with your, I know what you're talking about, but all of a sudden council goes, no, that's enough. We can't go forward with this project. It's not even worth it anymore. What's a risk to us paying back people, and we've now expropriated land we don't really want. All those risks, have you guys started looking at those? Has that entered your decision making or ideas right now? Like contractors, we secure contract like the transformer people, then we say, sorry man, we're not doing that anymore. There's gonna be a penalty we have to pay. Has that come into your risk analysis?
It has. It's something that we've considered from the start. This is a risk that we identified early on, that we knew costs had escalated to a point beyond the budget that we have. So with that direction to stay at $200 million, that is our intent. And we do need a facility. We need to replace the existing pad. We will, obviously, as Councilman Brody has suggested, look at how long can we keep using it. But to cancel the project isn't an approach that we're looking at, because we do need to replace that facility. We do need something, and we do intend to construct something at $200 million. As I mentioned, deferring potentially less maintenance waste or a little bit less storage, but things that we need to have an essential facility. I think we're still going forward with that.
Of the $200 million.
Yeah.
And so, okay. All right, that's answered well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, it's not through.
You've had this
Had an exhaustive debate. Okay.
Traumatized, I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah, the EPC, I did, raise the question about, I know operationally it's not ideal having 3 garages potentially, but if there is not a scenario where a portion or whatever of the north garage could continue to be used while we look for future funding. I mean, the current federal government has talked about a permanent transit capital fund, which could provide an opportunity to do the remainder of the work that's desired and needed for the Brookside location there. So okay, somebody want to move this report? Okay, thanks. Councilor Lukes, all's in favor? Opposed, carried. Hop over now to transition to zero emission buses.
Which weird.
Take that one as well. So same scenario, report number 5 for same period ended June 30th, 2024. This project is also on schedule and budget. It's 30% schedule complete and 6% of the adopted budget spent. On the delivery of buses, we have had supply chain disruptions, build quality and compliance issues that continue to result in delayed bus deliveries. So as of the end of June, we'd received 33 diesel and zero emission buses at that point. 33 diesel buses was about 70% of the expected number for that period of time. So we're working with New Flyer to resolve those quality issues. Delivery dates are been pushed back on the zero emissions. The report notes mid-August, that is at this point in time, mid-November, and last diesel bus by February of 2025, that is still accurate. We have progressed on the charging and hydrogen infrastructure, with contracts awarded for the electrical charging infrastructure construction, the hydrogen equipment supply, operation, and maintenance of the charging or fueling station, and consulting services for that station. And we have purchased a portable fast charger for Port Rouge Maintenance Garage, which was also awarded and received in the period of this report. A little more detail on some of those items in terms of bus rolling stock. On the diesel, we had an original tender awarded to New Flyer with the option of 5 extensions. The first extension was a production of 38 diesel buses in December of 2023. We have been receiving those buses, and as well as the second extension of 45 buses, which was awarded to New Flyer, and we are receiving those as well. Deliveries are expected between August and February of 2025, as I mentioned. Zero emission buses, the original tender was for 16 zero emission buses, 8 battery electric, 8 hydrogen fuel cell. So we are now starting to, as I mentioned, receive those mid to late November. And we have awarded, just last month, went to Public Works Committee with an award for the first extension of that contract with New Flyer, which is up to 24 40-foot battery electric buses. We don't expect to receive those until the first quarter of 2026. On the charging infrastructure, we have awarded a purchase of a mobile charger from Siemens Canada. We have issued an RFP for the charging infrastructure at Brandon Garage. We awarded that to McCain Electric, so construction has begun on the chargers there. And we awarded a contract to City Electric for electrical components and materials to update our maintenance garage around that mobile charger and the chargers at Brandon Garage. The hydrogen fueling station issued an RFP for consulting that was awarded to KGS Group in April. We had also issued an RFP for the station itself, and that was awarded to Azol Hydrogen in May. We've met with both of those groups in late May, and construction and design work is underway for that station at Fort Rouge Garage. And then we are completing some maintenance garage updates at Fort Rouge to be able to service and maintain the hydrogen fuel cell buses. Okay, risks, we have no new risks at this point to highlight. Two ongoing risks, obviously the decreased purchasing power due to inflation that's been on this risk table from the beginning, and then hydrogen infrastructure not reaching substantial completion prior to the arrival of the buses. We are looking at some temporary fueling provisions over the winter. We've drastically reduced that period of time that we thought we may have a risk there, but we are looking at temporary fueling, and then we modify the delivery timeline of the buses to try to better align with the station coming online. Financial, like similar jump to Appendix B, we have actual costs at the end of June of $15.895 million, $464,000 engineering design, $15.1 million in the construction category, which is largely purchases of buses, and then $326,000 in financing and overhead for that 6% of the adopted budget spent to date. At the end of June, we had submitted 5 financial claims to the province of Manitoba for payment of $5.617 million and received $5.428. And stakeholders, we are planning a media event and communications rollout for the zero emission buses, and obviously exact timing and dates, we will work towards that once we confirm delivery and receipt and outfitting of the buses.
Okay. So, I'm not sure if there's a risk here or not. I didn't hear a risk. But tied to the other report, we buy all these electric buses, but we can't maintain them because we don't have the garages. Is that part of this, the risk? I didn't see it in this report. But has that impacted the purchase of electric buses that we're not too sure if we'll have any bays to actually fix them? How are you guys putting that into your heads?
No, that is something that we discussed in the previous report to Public Works and a bit in the North Garage report. It is an impact there. This report is focused on ICIP, which is not overlapping with the opening of the new garage. But regardless of that, yes, it is a risk if we reduce the scope of the garage to the $200 million. There is a risk of delaying purchase of zero emission buses, delay of that program. And we're talking.
And that's not in here yet, though, that risk, because we have determined, I believe Public Works and Council determined that you are going to be reducing your scope.
That's I would categorize that in the North Garage report that we'll discuss further next time.
Okay.
It won't technically fall under this report because this ends in 2027.
Okay.
And they'll bring forward in January all the associated domino effects.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Of what the decision is.
Okay, so my domino, thank you, because that's exactly what I'm thinking about. The one goes to the other, and we love to be. Well, and again, I'm very pleased that the city is not so isolated in these little bubbles anymore. The department, you guys actually look at the domino effect. So with the fact that the North Garage will be scaled back, with the fact that some of these electric buses and hydrogen may be taken delayed, how does that impact our big grand transportation master plan that's coming out soon? Are we gonna have buses for that whole plan? I don't know.
That is another element we identified as a risk with reducing the scope of the garage, is our ability to purchase further articulated buses, right? Our existing
The blue line needs a.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's a similar model to the blue line, so where we might see a risk or an impact to service is not having those articulated buses that can service the main line ridership. So we did flag that as a risk.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, when we flip the routes, everything be going great. The idea of flipping the routes is to encourage more people to take the bus. But that's where the challenge comes in a couple of years is the bus,
Capacity.
the capacity, right? It's the capacity.
That's what I
So,
think about. Yeah.
so that's kind of, not immediately, but a couple of years, right? People will love this new routing system
Love it.
and all want to get on board, but it's nothing to get on board.
Love transfers.
Right, well, that's another topic.
Okay, so the plan doesn't need to be amended. We don't need to be looking at changing
Not
routes
right
down. Not right away, because we have enough buses to start us off. Some of them are a little ancient. We don't have enough articulated ones, maybe a little impact on the blue line, which is really kind of important. I know for Councilor Luce and myself, because we tell everybody, hey, don't worry about the transfer. You can get on the blue line real quick and straight downtown and wherever you want to go. But if they get a transfer and they have to wait half an hour because they can't get what happened at the beginning,
Yeah.
they couldn't get on the buses because they're full. And so that's gonna really wreck the program in the south end. If that happens, because I've been telling people, your transfers, your time on the bus will be a lot less. And this is one quick and you won't wait long. So am I hearing today that they won't wait long still in the beginning? But you can't tell. Well, you should be able to tell based upon ridership numbers and you've done your projections, I hope. That we'll be able to have enough buses and things at the beginning, but we won't have enough, I'm still a little concerned that we don't have enough buses even to do the plan that we want to do. And so we're gonna roll this plan out and then all of a sudden you're gonna go, well, we only have 10 blue line buses. We really do need 20. And then all of a sudden I'll be getting those calls from residents going, you told me, John. I go, well, they told me. To alleviate that concern I have at this point, and again, I appreciate Councilor Luke saying in a couple of years that impact will happen.
And we'll find lots of money from the Fed.
Oh, it's gonna be raining money, raining money. Yeah.
Robinson.
Oh, yeah, the servers are really big into this, yeah, so. So to alleviate some of my concerns that when we do this TMP, we're not gonna have enough buses or services be, we know it's frequency, it's key, for increasing ridership. We don't have frequency, we're not gonna get those people on the buses too much. Can you alleviate some of that fear for me, someone?
I think it's hard to alleviate your fears completely because we have those same concerns and that's why we raised that.
How's
Yeah,
that?
but with the new network, there is an anticipation there will be some increase. Other jurisdictions have followed a similar model and seen an increase. So we do see that occurring over time, and that's why we say without that storage and maintenance space at the new facility, we may not be able to purchase articulated buses at the rate that we wanted to, and that'll change our fleet mix and may impact those mainline riders. I wish I could say more at this point, but that's
Fine, that's what
where it is.
I'm gonna say, and resolve my concern. I'm always concerned about everything. That's why my heart keeps blowing out, but I appreciate that. My last question to you is, and this may not be germane, and Janice may punch me in the sec to say, hey, John, talk to me about Public Works instead. What I've been hearing is in the transportation master plan, we're getting rid of charter services in the system. Those are, I never mean we did it, school boards. School boards have a dedicated bus that you guys send out in the morning. They pay for it. It's great. And now that service is no longer going to be available to them, that I've been told. And the reason I've been told, but I could be wrong, is we just don't have enough buses or enough drivers to provide that service anymore. Is that an accurate statement or should I just move that off to Public Works?
I think you had a meeting just recently about that, and I've got one coming up.
Giving you a foreshadow.
No, I know, I have mine coming up. We're getting transit, so.
I'm very excited about it.
When we come back, we'll keep your Raj with us and you'll explain what that plan is about in a little more detail. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I just, we had a meeting yesterday with Pembina Trails. And they've had a pretty hard year with their bus changes that they did. They're still getting beaten on, so all the trustees over there are a little shaky. So they're trying to get out, and I'm very happy that Janice is going with you guys to meet them.
I'm happy they're coming with me.
Yeah, so I'm very happy that's happening. They have these questions, and Councillor Duncan, to all his glory, said he would look into it and deal with it, but it's really Lindenwood residents for me, that got to go to Shaftesbury.
I do appreciate, there was a session for councillors to go and see their plans for communicating the route changes and like.
Yeah, that was
what's been
all
going on
fine.
there, But not charters,
Charters.
That's right.
not the school charters and
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, but we can get some of that information later on, and I just really this is really a question to
Yeah.
more Janice, which she's gonna get into in a
Yeah.
second. Yeah, but thank you very much, and, okay, no, you've, answered the questions well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or somebody have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all's in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Entertainment funding tax, annual report 2023.
Hey, and joining us to speak to that report is John Spidell, Corporate Controller.
I don't know if I'm gonna have that epic background music for my thing.
That was beautiful, yeah, I don't know, I can't just warm down in, yeah, I was gonna, I don't know what that was, but it's going outside, it's pretty good.
So
Oh, cute, I love those things, yeah. Like weddings, they're so much fun. Do you guys do those? They're sweet. Do weddings, yeah. Great, here's our. Thanks for somebody.
Okay, let's get somebody. Okay, thank you, Tracy. I'll now take the committee through the highlights of the entertainment funding tax annual report for the period ending December 31st, 2023. The report is presented annually and is comprised of two sections. The first showing the collection of the entertainment tax, and the second, the distribution of grants provided to the arts and cultural community within the city. The report shows a continued strong recovery in 2023 for entertainment tax, with collections being at just about $2.2 million. This is up 41.4%, or $636,000 from 2022, as the industry has recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic. Pre-pandemic levels were about the $2 million mark back in 2018, 2019. The appendix in the report shows the details of the grants paid to each organization. The grants paid for 2023 total $5,937,503. This amount is consistent with the last 5 years, with the range being from 5.85 million to 6.22 million as a high point. That concludes my report, Councillor Roy.
What, besides movies, do we collect any revenue from anything that's not a motion picture?
Yes, so the bomber events,
Okay, but those get refunded.
those are refunded,
But
yes.
anything that we get that isn't refunded, that isn't a movie.
The movies make up the majority of its, yes, there is any.
Is this 5,000 persons, like the concert hall is less than 5,000, I
Yeah.
think?
It's, I think, what, 15.
Oh, that's small, like. Mall park gets refunded, stadium gets refunded.
The arena gets refunded. Yeah,
So nothing really over 5,000.
Less than 5,000. All the other arenas and facilities we have are less than 5,000.
No, but they had those like outdoor concerts and stuff. They even over 5,000.
Well, they may,
Just wondering, okay?
but I don't even remember the last time the Devils had a concert.
I remember back in the day, like, you know, another roadside attraction.
No, no, no.
But they have the sort of
Country
like,
fest.
you know, they have like EDM, you know, electronic dance music, you know, rave type shows.
You're there every day, I hear.
Councillor Duncan was complaining about, he was getting complaints from residents about the fact, so that's.
Hilarious.
He joked that I was there and I was not, definitely.
That's funny. One question for you is, I see this and I'm glad we're having the money back, and I know that we had some money problems for a while with this entertainment tax, during COVID. But you know what, so we waived a lot of, money that was supposed to come from the entertainment tax, and we paid the loan for convention center. Well, are they paying it back to us, the loan that we gave them, or where is that, how does that feed into this? The convention center, they're supposed to, is entertainment tax was supposed to pay principal or something, I don't know, on the loans. Or am I missing something here? Some tied to,
A hotel tax, yes.
well, the hotel tax, okay, that's not the entertainment tax, that's hotel tax.
Yeah,
Okay, that's my bad, okay.
I
That's fine.
think. Yeah, I don't remember the entertainment tax.
No, you're probably right, I'm getting mixed up between the hotel tax and the entertainment tax. So that's another question, I don't know if you can answer that today, or I can follow up with.
No, I wasn't even familiar with that, but I'll look into it now.
Yeah, I don't mind helping the convention center out, but, you know, we've given them a lot of loans, especially with the slowdown of that place across the street from them.
It's interesting, like, prior to COVID, you know, movie theater tickets, you know, I don't know when they started doing assigned seating in movie theaters. But that, it's somewhat new, it's somewhat, but I mean, you used to go to the movie theater, you put down your cash, they give you a ticket, and it was rush seating.
Yeah.
They've now, and we got, our entertainment tax on the entire ticket amount. Apparently now there's all sorts of ancillary fees. And in fact, there's a legal proceedings going on elsewhere that they're not being disclosed publicly enough. And the industry's in trouble for, not disclosing that, these are not optional fees and people are, there's a thing with the movie theater industry. And best I can tell, we're not getting our take on that, as well as, all sorts of fees now to.
Well, that's interesting.
So it's interesting to compare 2019 to 2023, it hasn't really gone up materially, because I think most of the additional cost now of movies is these ancillary fees as opposed to the actual tickets. So it's just I had them look, the bylaw is pretty clear that it's, just the ticket price, the base ticket price. So
We can't have popcorn.
well,
We'd be billionaires, we can have the popcorn.
right. No, I mean, that's part of the way that, they.
So you can just actual $10, popcorn and other things that's separate from.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that's the point, but just all these
No,
things
but-
that are related to getting the ticket that we're not necessarily collecting on is.
Wendy, do you have any idea when they're gonna resolve that issue? I guess in the courts or just plugging the way through it?
Yeah, or maybe just the way they disclose it, maybe just a disclosure issue that, hey, you, by booking on the app, you're paying, this fee to do it, maybe a disclosure issue as opposed to just the legality of the fee, but.
Well, I think we wanna have the best ticket price possible captured, just that.
Yeah, so anyway, just something to look at, and I don't know if there's any opportunity to change that or how that works, but just as a thought. Okay,
So it's,
somebody want to see this one?
yeah.
All's in favor? Opposed, carried. Final report, update on the status of City of Winnipeg provincial / federal grants.
Okay, and John's gonna walk us through this one too.
Okay. So this is now quarterly, as you remember, it used to be every month, and so I'll take you through the update of the status of the City of Winnipeg provincial federal grants as of September 24th, 2024. As normal, the highlighted yellow cells have been updated since the last report. So on the first page, not too many changes, just the one. And that was due to the CCBF letter that we got in, and they just updated the amount that we're entitled to from the estimate that we had in the report prior. Last report, we had it at 48.4 million or 438 million. Now it's 48.473 million. So just really a small change there. The second page of the report shows the cash position changes in revenue recognition. The highlighted numbers have been updated from the last report with the explanation at the bottom of the page as normal. On pages 3, 4, and the top of page 5. So Councillor Oracle at the previous meeting when we presented this report wanted us to include some information of potential future funding. So we've included a couple items on here. So the first one on top of page 3 is the Canadian Public Transit Fund. I think that was mentioned a little bit on the previous presentations. And then over on page 4, you have the Youth Employment Skills Strategy Program that the city is also looking at for additional funding. And that's affectionately known as the YES program, so I kind of like that one. The rest of page 5 and pages 6 and 7 provide details of capital and related projects. Page 5 shows the breakdown of the future CCBF or the gas tax funding. And page 6 shows the 4-year view of the strategic infrastructure basket funding. And then as always, page 7 concludes the report with the details of the ISIP that shows some small claims for zero emission buses. So as of this report date, we recognize 3 million, and I think the previous report was like 4 point something. So those ones will flow through for the next one. So that concludes my report, Chair Barroy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go into my little bag of fun, which is the Housing Accelerator Fund. Which is not, again, I got screamed at by council yesterday that I hate infill, absolutely ridiculous. What I do appreciate is transparency and the council involvement in decision making. And now that we see we have 30 million, they're our first tranche of money that's come through. Again, it's nice, but at this day, council does not know where that 30 million is going. We have no idea where it's been budgeted to. Is it being budgeted just to grants for the last round? No. Is it being developed to pay for increasing the corridor plan to be moved it up, 6 months? That costed a couple $100,000. We still don't have any idea of what the budget is and how we're spending those 6 categories. So that really causes me grief. I don't know what our targets are. We have no idea. I don't know. And I can thank Maura for trying to figure that out, help me out. I have been denied the ability to see the application by the legal department. They said I cannot see the actual final application, which we've never seen on council or been given a report on. I am amazed that I find out that our target numbers of 14,000, which was way higher than I thought, was done because in the application that was received back from the federal government, they jacked up our non-half incentive units. I was totally unaware of that. Unless I dug around here, I would have never known that. Why is that an issue for me? Because that increases our risk to get the first tranche. Should be, in my opinion, 12,000, but it's still back up to 14,000 because the CMHC said, oh, your numbers were too low before. We're just going to arbitrarily increase it 2,500 more units on this side, on the non-incentivized units. So I'm bringing this up because, and I know they're really busy, but I do have a job to do. And I'm pretty shocked the fact that we don't have any idea about what this financial impact, plus or minus, of the HALF program is going forward. I've met with the department many times. They said, well, John, stop asking us all those questions. It's really hard for us to go through all the data you're providing us. Well, I don't want to ask you these questions either, but you haven't given it to me. So I'm trying to make sure that the HALF, the 122 million, not 192 million, 122 million is actually providing value to us. What is the financial impact, for example, changing some of our zonings? We know there's an impact on LDR, still waiting to hear back about service agreements. Haven't heard that yet. And other auxiliary costs that the city will not be receiving anymore. If it's $10 million that this have an impact on the planning department, on their revenue, which they are a revenue-based business over there, who's paying for that $10 million loss? We already have all the permit, I think it's $8 million in the next couple of years that's dedicated, which I found out yesterday, not to HALF, for the downtown permit system. That they want to do, the parking and the other stuff. And that'll be part of the budget, but that's already hit. And we don't know how we're paying for it yet. It's being pushed to the next budget. We don't know how we're, so, you know, and then the day, it's a pretty, we ran for it, again, like ISEP and other stuff like that. We saw money dangling from a branch and we went for it. So I really do appreciate CFO has listened to me, my concerns, trying to get some information. And I know that some of my questions are obscure. I have spent way too much time trying to figure out myself, how many units per category are we expecting? How many lot split units are going to come out? Well, I just found out yesterday that secondary suites are now considered a unit. I never thought they were before. They actually kind of told me they weren't, but I look back at my records, so be it. Now they confirm, yes, secondary suites, which is a huge change. Because those secondary units are, it makes, so that's 3 units extra per lot split. That's what it is. So how many permits do we expect? Building permits do we expect per category? They have no idea. They have never projected up. They project back 5 years, but they haven't projected forward at all. I have no idea how we actually entered into an agreement. We haven't even thought about that stuff yet. Where we're losing the LDR, we're potentially losing service agreements, we're using cash in lieu. That's all these things are actually, so yes, we get the $120 million, but we know these financial impacts are forever. So that's fine. We all agree that was what we want to do. So what's the P&D department going to do if they lose $10 million from the revenue stream? Is that just going to come to general revenue, or we're going to have to fill the gap? Or is P&D expecting to lay off half their staff, which they say no? Or are they expecting to use this idea of future property taxes? We'll just earmark those. I know we'll pay our way out of growth. I think we've heard that back in Waverly West days. When I first started.
Wasn't here.
I was, and I remember that was a big argument. Don't worry, we'll have new taxes. And a couple of my developer friends will say that, and we did before, but to say in 75 years it works out better. Well, you forget about the actual reinvestment cost of all the 75 years. So I'm making this right now because I am, housing is very important. That is not a problem. But the lack of understanding from the finance side about the impact this program is going to have on the city of Winnipeg, not for the HALF application, but in perpetuity. The fact that it wasn't even in the report that we got from the HALF report when we decided to go with 4 stories, 4 plexus. It wasn't even, the financial costs were even mentioned in there. It wasn't mentioned even in the first report of the rapid housing. So my question to you is, why wasn't that information the financial information as part of those reports? Do we have any answer to that? No, it's okay. I'm pointing it out. And so now I have to dig backwards. And again, if it is too much work, it shouldn't be me asking. I have to make a council motion. So I know you're gonna look into it quickly, but again, I don't want councilors, unless council wants to do this, they may not want that to happen. But right now, I know you're looking over my data, that's fine. But if it does become too much work, I'm gonna have to do a motion and see if council supports it, because I don't want individual councilors giving you guys huge projects. That'll crush the park. That, if it's a huge project, it has to come from the council. So I can state that as well. But I do appreciate taking the time with me yesterday. Maura taking the time with me. Maura said she'll try to get me some of that information I asked for. But to be honest with you, I've been hearing that for 6 months. They'll try to get me the information and, you know, it comes, or like the last report on LDR. It was, I wouldn't say hilarious, but it was really wrong. Because again, we know our land development costs went up in 2024. So they're using a 5-year average. Well, those 4 years was a lot less LDR. The last year with the LDR boosted up because of the 23-24, we council approved a land development motion. So that number went up. So again, I'm not worried about the last 5 years. I'm worried about the next 5 years. And so that's what we're working on. I'm saying that to my expressing a little bit of my frustration because we're so broke. If we had flush money, and this idea of tax revenue, you're going to cover it off. That's sure. I'm open-minded-ish, not totally open on it, but I'll listen. But that conversation never happened yet. It happened back rooms and things I'm hearing chirp. So I'm raising this because I'm just concerned that we're putting ourselves in a hole for a long time. To go grab maybe $80 million, $90 million if we don't reach our targets. And I hear, oh, don't worry about it, we're gonna reach our targets. Well, the old trust me model. Again, I'm way past that. It's not about trust. It's about me doing my job and council doing their job and having this committee do its job, which is fiscal oversight and making sure that we know what's coming forward. So when Councilor Belwadi has to join the budget, oh, Councilor Belwadi, we already have the risk, the permits. Oh, Councilor Belwadi, the risk now is $10 million added now to the fire, added to the police, added to snow clearing, added to everything else we have. We're just it's not like the old days where we could find something in the reserve, which we have no more left at all. And that's why I get a little more worried about money than I have been in the past. I knew you guys could always try to figure it out, but this is causing me a little bit of concern.
The FSR specifically, other reserves still have.
Yeah, but the environmental reserves are small. The FSR, we don't have a
project based, but
yeah, probably. We do have some reserves, some dedicated reserves, but let's face it, we're draining off that FSR every year, and now we're at zero after the next round. And we don't have a general purpose reserve, and we have to replace the FSR. And that's going to be Councilor Belwadi's joy. I wish him all the best, and all the support I can kind of give him. But again, so that I'm just raising this now today, and all in the ISIP programs, same thing. That's transit one. Great that we got the money, but it's costing us massive. And the worst one possible, as we know, is the North End treatment plant, where we're, I think, even your report here, we're about 75% funding this thing, with billions and billions of dollar projects, and we hope. I don't like budgeting on hope.
Yeah.
We hope that the funds will come in and help us out again. I don't like hope. I like data and facts.
Optimism.
I'm not very much of an optimist. So I raise this as my general concerns. And my other general concern is the amount of class 4s and 5s. That was a really good report received. I expected to be about 25%. I did expect it to be around 50%. That's out of control. So that's a lot of money being parked away for projects that are way off, plus or minus 100%. So I say that because that's the work I'm doing right now, and not doing it just because I want to kill housing. Some ideas I don't like, but that's life. It's called council. We have to drink a little bit of bitter wine once in a while to be like overall better. But it's a financial thing I'm still quite concerned about on that particular file. So I just wanted to raise that today. I know it's been blathering away, but I want to get that on record for me today.
Anybody ready for motion?
Yeah, so move.
Okay, thank you. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. So do we move consent and adjournment? Thank you. All in favor?
Thanks.
Opposed, carried. Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated.